All right. Morning, sixth graders. Today, it's going to be April 6th, which is your first full day of distance learning on Google Classroom. Now, we're going to do things probably a little bit differently than how you're used to. When we go through notes today, what we're actually going to be doing is we're going to be spending a lot of time looking at these slides, but I'm not going to have any notes provided for you today. Sometimes we will, sometimes we won't. And that basically is going to go along with what else you have assigned for that day. So I want you to remember, as we're going through this, you are going to have a reading guide that's due tomorrow, and that's going to be The Reign of Terror, and that's reading guide 10. Now, that's going to be provided in the paper packet that you'll be getting from the school. It'll also be on this page where the video is posted just in case you need it for whatever reason. Okay. Now, even though you probably saw my introductory video, I do just want to give a shout out to everybody and tell you that, hey, number one, I'm doing all right. I'm just as weird and crazy as ever. And secondly, things are going okay here. For the most part, we're staying healthy, we're staying busy, and I haven't driven my fiance or my dog completely crazy yet. So that's an awesome thing. So with all that being said, I really hope that all of you are doing the same, being safe. And as I tell you on every Friday, making good choices, not just in what you do, but how you're doing it. And continue to use those safe practices, okay? Because the last thing I want is for any of you to get sick because you weren't taking care of yourself. Because guess what? You're all smart enough, okay? So that being said, I'm going to switch over. You're going to be looking, instead of at this lovely face here, you're going to be looking at my screen, and it's going to give you some notes to look at. So give me 1 second. All right. Now, one thing that I want to tell you too before we get started on this is that you should be doing a warm-up and an exit ticket for every single day. And when you take a look at my Google Classroom page, you're going to see that they're going to be located above and below the lesson that you're supposed to be going into today. The hope is that you're going from the beginning of the lesson, starting with the warm-up, going into the actual lesson, which you'll be doing now. And then after you're done, there will be another section for you to answer the exit ticket. Now, that is going to be your attendance for every single day, okay? So make sure that you're getting that done, because we need to know that you are actively a part of class, because that's your way of showing that you attended school that day. I know it sounds a little bizarre, but it's very important for us and for the state to know that you're still going to school, okay? Now, changing gears, we're going to talk about the French Revolution, and we've left off pretty long ago, right? In fact, the last thing that happened was we had the storming of the Bastille, and that led into a whole lot of panics, right? We had the Great Fear, which nobility, second estate people left the country as quickly as they could because they were worried that the third estate would either arrest them or in many cases kill them for things that they had done in the past. Now, we're going to fast forward through the things that you've been reading about, right? We know that the French government was set up. There was a republic government. And I want you to remember too that we had a limited monarchy system for a while, right? Louis the 16th was able to remain in power, provided that he listened to what the new Republican government, the Assembly, asked him to do. Now, of course, we also know he was arrested, taken to prison inside of a palace in Paris. And after that, he was kept there. So he really didn't have much of a choice, right? But in the grand scheme of things, you can either give up a little bit of your power or you can be killed or exiled. I think choice for Louis was pretty clear. for 16. Now, eventually, things are going to kind of go south for them a little bit because they decide that they want to resume the way things used to be. Now, they can't do it themselves because they're kept prisoner inside of Paris. So what they do is they decide to try to escape. And as they're escaping, if you watch the second part of the video, they're caught by guards. And after that, because they were going to Austria, who they were at war with, they were seen as traitors because they were working with the enemy. So this would be the beginning of the end for both Louis and Marie. And eventually, as the video stated, and as we've been leading up to through our text, that's going to cause them to kill both of them because they figured there was no way to keep this revolution going if they could continuously go back to the old system at any time. A very permanent fix to a problem. But it happened. Louis died first, and Marie would die a few months later. Now, after that, we start to see huge changes in the religion, culture, and art of the time period because the people that are in charge want to make changes so that they can get rid of the old memories and bring in new things. So hopefully this new system that they're trying to put in place will stay that way. Okay, so we're going to get started on this now. I'm sorry, we're not going to have introductions that are that long every time, but I just wanted us to catch up with where we've been since we were actually in class to where we are right now. Okay, and we're going to have a review on Thursday that's going to go through the certain things because you will be having a quiz on Friday. Okay, so religion. Religion's going to change in the most obvious of ways. Christianity is now going to become illegal, right? 14 and 16 were both seen as divine kings, and because of that, they needed to get rid of that system. So it became strictly illegal, in fact, punishable by death if you were seen to be practicing the old Christian religion. Now, as we talked about in our religions unit, though, there are going to be people that need to put faith into some sort of being. So in order to do that, what they decided to do, the leaders of this new revolution, this new Republican government, they created a god, and they called him the Supreme Being. But we also have other symbols, like an eternal flame, kind of like the Olympic flame, right? A flame that never goes out, and that's supposed to be like the spirit of France. There's the all-seeing eye, which means somebody's always watching what you're doing. Creepy, I know, but effective. And then there also were pyramids, and there was Mary Ann. Now, Mary Ann is a woman who carries the French Revolution flag and is painted in a picture. She's seen as like the spirit of the revolution for both men and women in France. Now, as you can see here, I hope you can see my cursor, but we have a picture, of course, painted by the most famous revolutionary painter, who we'll talk about in a bit. This is the yearly festival of what was called the Supreme Being. Now, this was held in the middle of the year as opposed to the end, which Christmas would have been celebrated. But you can see the statue in the background. That is actually a statue of the person that we're going to talk about in the next slide, who is seen as like the symbol of this revolution. His name is Marat. But this is the festival. So the government mandated or forced everybody to follow this new religion so that they could create something that people could look up to, but then also that the government could control the message coming out of it. And through religion and through different practices, we see a change in art. Now, if we go back here to the Festival of the Supreme Being, we can see these are all painted by the same person, and his name is Jacques-Louis David. And you should have read about him in a previous reading section. But we have to talk about him again because he really is an important figure during this time. He is somebody who is going to portray everything in the revolution in an artistic way. He's not a very good public speaker. He gets very nervous in crowds, but he feels very strongly about the revolution, and he does have a gift. And as you can tell, it's creating incredibly lifelike paintings of serious events. So on the right, we've seen this picture already. We've seen the tennis court oath, right? This was painted by him very early on. Now, this second picture is interesting because this is known as the death of Marat. Now, if you watch the video, Marat was a person who, kind of like Socrates, stood in the middle of Paris and tried to get people to believe in his message. Now, Socrates would ask people questions. Marat tried to get people to dislike or even maybe hate the monarchy to make a change. Now, he's sitting in a bathtub here because in his lifetime, he was homeless for quite some time and ended up having to be put into bathtubs almost continuously when he wasn't out in public, because when he was homeless, he spent time in sewers and got a skin condition. I know, it's a little gross. But that's why he's dead in his bathtub, because in his spare time, the skin condition that he had was very painful, so he had to spend a lot of time in a bath. Now, as he is preparing speeches during the time the revolution's kicking up, there is a woman named Charlotte who comes into his room saying that she is someone who believes in the revolution and has a list of people who are traitors. But she stabs him with a high-heeled shoe, and he passes away in the tub. Now, Marat, because of how important he was to the movement, was seen as what's called a martyr. And we've talked about those in the past, okay? Jesus is considered a martyr as well, right? It's somebody who dies for the cause that they believe in. And that's why, going back to the Supreme Being, we're going to see Marat's statue or his likeness be made in a statue, because he's seen as somebody who died so that the revolution could continue on. So we're going to see either events that are painted about the revolution, or we're going to see very lifelike shots of horrific events that make people in the revolution look better. And everyday life is going to change, right? The old way to address somebody, like we might say sir or ma'am, that's a little old school, but I still hear it sometimes. To say that would be considered too formal or too proper. So when you addressed someone, you had to call them citoyen or citoyen, which is male or female citizen, if you translate that to English. And you couldn't even bow or curtsy the people that you were seeing in the street, because that's something that someone of a wealthy class would do. So that was seen as offensive and seen as something that would be, I don't want to say unnecessary, but it would seem like you preferred the old ways instead of the new ways. Now, we're going to see these people dressed in the tricolor outfit. Now, your book will talk about this. We're going to review it later in the week. This is called the sans culotte. Now, the culotte is a type of knee pants that wealthy people wore. In order to show that they did not want to be a part of that, people started dressing with normal pants that we would see as today that go all the way down to their legs. Also, you're going to see that the colors that they wear are going to be the solid colors of that new French Revolutionary flag, right? This was a way to show that you were a supporter. And if you didn't wear things like that, you might not always be arrested, but people are going to look at you very, very suspiciously, right? Because why wouldn't you support this? This is for everybody to be equal and to be happy. So not wearing those outfits in the middle of Paris could have been something maybe not dangerous, but definitely would have gotten people suspicious of you. They also made a new calendar. Now, the Republic decided that they believed everything in the past was negative in terms of the way it interacted with the former third estate or the peasants. So September 22nd, 1793 became day one, year one of this new calendar, right? Crazy stuff. So everything else beforehand, you could make the argument just doesn't exist anymore. Now, there's still 12 months, but that's really where the similarities are going to end between that calendar and the new one. Now, each month is going to have 30 days, no matter what. There's no February with 28th. There's no May with 31 or July with 31. Each month is going to have 30 days. Now, months are going to be named after common weather patterns because there's no religious meaning there, right? A lot of months in the Gregorian calendar, the one that we use now, they do have either religious meanings or they're going to be named after old Roman gods or goddesses, or even people like Julius Caesar with July and Augustus Caesar with August. So they decided to change it. And the way to make it neutral and not have religion be a basis of it is to name the month after the weather you could expect, right? Kind of makes sense. You can organize it in your head then. July would be renamed Thermidor, which means heat. So you could think to yourself, oh yeah, that's right. Thermidor is going to be the hottest month out of the year, and it's during that time of the year. Now, the weeks are all going to be, as you can see, this is in French, but the weeks are all going to be 10 days. Now, there's going to be 9 days of work and 1 of rest a week. Compared to the old calendar, 6 days of work and 1 of rest, that is a little bit harsh. But I think if you can really think about it, there is one reason why you would change the name of the days and the length of the week, because one particular day is going to be cut out, and that's going to be Sunday, right? Sunday is the day of Christian worship, Saturday is the day of Jewish worship, and Friday is the day of Muslim worship. But since France, since France was a Christian country, if they could get rid of Sunday, then there'd be a less chance that people would worship the Christian God in secret, right? So I think that was really the main reason that they did it. But then also, I will admit, it definitely does allow for some pretty easy organization of weeks and months. And the chief architect of all of this is going to be the person that you're going to read about for tonight. And that is Maximilien Robespierre. I do like the shades, but we'll go to this picture. Now, Robespierre is someone we've talked about kind of off and on now for quite a while. He's former third estates-man. He was at the Estates General, and over time, a lot of times through not very good practices, he ends up becoming the head of this new government, as it's going to be called, the Committee of Public Safety. Now, over time, he is going to be the one who is going to be ordering deaths of people by the guillotine, right? He's the one that decides basically just on his own opinion who should be killed and who shouldn't be. Now, if you're going to do your exit ticket after this, which I know you will because you want to be seen as getting your homework done for the day and attending school, it's going to ask you what was so ironic, or what is the irony of Robespierre. And the thing is that he's implementing all of these new things. He's changing everything, but he sentences people to death that don't follow these new rules. And in the end, after all of the deaths and all of the beheadings by the guillotine, Robespierre is going to be the very last person that the guillotine is going to be dropped on. And after that, the killings are going to stop. So the irony means you're going against something that you expected. So what's ironic about Robespierre is that he's the one that orders all of these killings, and yet in the end, he's the last one killed by the guillotine. And after that, the revolution stops with killing people to put forth their new plans. Okay. Now, your reading guide is going to be due tomorrow, right? It's going to be Reading Guide 10, Reign of Terror. And we are going to meet back tomorrow and start talking about Napoleon. Now, I think what's going to happen is if you have questions on your homework, your teachers are going to be available from 9 to 12 every day. And I'm going to ask that you contact me through Google Classroom if you have a question. But you need to remember that if it's small questions, things that you need to spend some time looking on your own, I may not be able to answer you right away because I have 95 students that can ask me questions at any time, okay? So you need to try to figure things out first on your own. And if you really can't find it, if you're really, really stumped, then I would like you to contact me and I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can, okay? Now, ladies and gentlemen, once again, I do really wish that we could do this together, that we could be in class doing parking lots every day, having our own presentations in the normal way that we do class. Fortunately, it's not going to be that way for a while now, okay? And as we go through this, I'm going to find ways to make this more efficient and more fun for you, hopefully. All I ask is that you keep up with the work that you're doing, and things are going to get better and better as this goes along, okay? Once again, stay safe, have a good night, and contact me if you have any questions with your homework. See you later.